Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Interact podcast. My name is Josh Hanum, co founder and CEO at Interact. Today, I'm joined by co founder and CEO Natalie Barbu of Rella. And Rella is a social media content manager. I'm sure it's more than that. You can tell us about it. But I wanted to talk to you about the mistakes that people make on social media because our audience has a lot of questions about how to do social media marketing correctly. So, first of all, thank you for being here and maybe give us a little bit more context on what Rella is beyond just content management.
Yeah. So we always like to say that we are project management for social media teams. So essentially, you can do anything that you can do on like Notion or, a project management tool. But we also have a content scheduler where you actually can integrate all of your social media platforms and auto post, comment to DMs and respond back to DMs and comments, view your analytics, and we make it super easy to collaborate with your team or anyone external, like any clients that you might have. So yeah, we always say we're more of a project management tool, but specifically for people that work in social.
Yeah, but then it's all connected in, right? So then it makes it easier on that front too. That's super cool.
Exactly. We eliminate a lot of the tools that you might be using if you're running a social media account.
Yeah, keep it all in one place instead of having to like switch between six tabs to get something posted and
Exactly.
manage comments.
hmm
Makes a lot of sense. Cool. So, is there one biggest mistake that people make when it comes to approaching social media? And for a little bit of additional context, a lot of our customers have been in business for 10 plus years. So, they were around before social was like the primary go to market motion. But then today, go to social is the primary go to market motion for a lot of our customers. So, it's kind of flipped.
hmm
Um, what's the biggest mistake, or maybe if there's a few that are all at the top?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest mistake that I see a lot of businesses doing is they're too salesy. And so it like comes off as like an automatic skip if I'm seeing it as a paid ad or if it's in my feed. And I think a lot of people, especially if you have customers that, or an audience that has been around for 10 plus years on social media has changed so much since then. And I don't think you necessarily need to, show your personal life as a founder or, be transparent in a way where, you're like revealing things that you don't want to show or anything like that. But I think there needs to be a style of content that you stick with that is more than just a sales pitch. So, for example, at Rella, we've experimented with a ton of different types of content. And the one that worked really well for us was a skit style video. So, essentially, we're acting as the social media client and the social media manager and kind of like showing the annoyance of the two. Like, oh, the social media client is being so annoying to the social media manager, and the social media manager has a million different tools that they're using to, please this client. And then we kind of come in with the solution as, oh, well, did you know Rella exists? And this could alleviate all of your problems. And it's not a commercial saying, hey, this is what Rella is. It's actually showing it in action in a way that is really relatable to the audience that's watching. So a lot of people will comment on our stuff and be like, wow, I didn't even realize this was an ad. And I'm like, perfect. That's like exactly what we want. We don't want it to feel like an ad because how many times are you scrolling on your phone and you see something that's like, try this product or buy now, or it's just like a graphic with like a price and, like features. And it's like, that's no one wants to see that. So you have to now kind of put yourself in your customer's shoes and think like, what would I stop scrolling for, and like, that could be a hook, that could be a certain type of video, it could be a certain problem that I'm resonated with, but like, what will make your audience stop in their tracks to actually watch? Because most people are just going to keep scrolling for like 95% of content.
So is the big difference there that you're starting with like the situation that someone might be in and then like getting to the solution? Because my brain immediately jumps to like, oh, everything's a problem solution framework. And
hmm
kind of sounds like it's still like that.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we definitely follow that framework. We try to make it entertaining where it's like a skit, and like people don't really feel like it's an ad. It's not necessarily just saying, like, do you have this problem? Here's the solution, kind of like a 90s infomercial, like it's not exactly like that. Even though those could still work, they worked back then, but it's more for it saying the problem, but like so people can relate to it. So for example, if I'm saying like, oh, like I'm using spreadsheets and Notion and this and that, or my client's complaining about using all of these tools, the person on the other end is watching it saying, wait, I use that. Like I use Notion, I use spreadsheets. What is this person saying? And then, yeah, I also feel that problem. And then, oh, but have you heard about Rella? And it's like, No, I haven't heard about Rella. Tell me more. So if a lot of people, for us, we're a newer tool, so a lot of people don't know who we are, but they know who our competitors are, what they're already using. So if we're referencing, what is already out there, people then are, if they have used those products, are going to stop and be like, wait, I feel this pain point too with these products, like let me keep listening. So it is problem solution, but it's in a way that would make your audience stop and be like, I relate to that, or I resonate with that, versus just saying like, do you have this problem, here's a solution, even though like that works too, like we've done videos like that and that also works. But we try to frame it as like, what would get them entertained, what would get them to keep watching, because the second someone realizes it's an ad, they will probably scroll. So yeah, we always say like, we try to make it as entertaining but also like value providing as possible.
This is the most scientific way to ask this question, but uh, what is the definition of entertainment?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's to not scroll, to keep your attention. So if what can keep someone's attention? So for example, if I'm starting a video and I'm like, "Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about how annoying it is to do X, Y, and Z." The second I said, "Hey guys," someone's already scrolled. Like it's like they're not entertained. Like that's like, "Oh, I don't want to watch a girl talking about like random problems or like get to the point." Our attention spans have become so small that you really have to get someone in there, stop in their tracks to be like, "Wait, I relate to this." So like a lot for a lot of the videos that we do, it's a lot of like social media manager problems. And so a social media manager is going to watch that and be like, "Oh, I'm a social media manager. Let me see if this is funny. Let me see." So it's like automatically getting them. So you have to have a hook visually and in like the what you're saying in the first like 3 seconds, I would say. So I would say the source or the definition of entertainment on social media is attention span, or get capturing their attention.
And going straight into something that like resonates with people or makes them think a certain way or sparks something in their mind instead of starting with like, hey, today we're going to talk about X, right? Because that's like kind of the opening of like old school marketing blogs and stuff. It used to be like, today this blog post going to cover this. So what you're saying is you have to skip that and go straight into something that's going to like immediately pique somebody's attention.
Yeah, and it depends on the platform. So, for example, YouTube is more of a search engine, So, like for those videos, yeah, you might want to say how to do X, Y, and Z, and like solve a problem that way, because people are actively searching, how do I do this? So you want your video to come up. For TikTok, it's more, I mean, there's a search engine component, so you can experiment with it, but it's more of that attention economy, I guess, where you're trying to capture their attention. Same with Instagram. So you do have to, it does depend on the platform. For a blog post, yeah, you want it to be informative. So if someone is searching, how do I do this? Your stuff comes up. So I think tailor it to the platform that you're posting on. For email campaigns, the subject line for us is like what matters. Like, okay, what are people going to want to click on if they're just reading a subject, because that's all people are reading when they're going on their email. So how can we make it not sound like a spam email? How do we make it sound interesting? So we've experimented with different subjects, so it's very platform specific, but you just have to put yourself, I always put myself in my audience's shoes of like, okay, I'm scrolling on Instagram right now, what's going to stop me, and then I'll even look sometimes when I'm scrolling, I'll make mental notes, or I'll add it to like a notes tab on my phone, what got me to stop scrolling. And it's like sometimes it's like a FaceTime style video, sometimes it's a really cinematic video, whatever it might be, but I will like take mental notes of what's made me stop scrolling, so that I can then reference it as like, oh, okay, this is what got me, so how can we just do our version of this?
Hmm. That brings up a question that I get a lot from our customers is one of these two things more important? Following trends or finding something that works for you and sticking with it? Or do you have to do both?
I am definitely on the belief that you have to find something that works and stick to it. I think trends should be complementary, but I don't even think they're necessary. Like I think people spend way too much time thinking about trends, and trends are incredibly short-lived. So it's not like evergreen content. So it's not content that you can necessarily like put paid advertising behind for months on end, because like people are going to get tired of that trending sound or that trend really quickly. So it's like in the moment, it's kind of like a quick hit. I think trends should happen if you find something that you can add your twist to it that will get people to like stop and pay attention with the trend, go for it, do it. Like, I'm not against trends, but I think too many social media managers focus their entire strategy on trending content. And again, like I said, it's not evergreen, so it's very short-lived. And also, it doesn't get people to follow you. So if I see a trend, for example, and I see like a funny, meme that's on a trend or a funny whatever trend, I might send it to a friend and be like, ha ha ha, this is so funny. But like, that's all I'm doing. I'm not going to their website. I'm not learning more about the product. I'm not following the company. So I always look at kind of what I'm doing because I'm a huge consumer. Like, I am always on social media. So I kind of look at what I'm doing, and like, when I send funny trending content that maybe a brand did, it's do I take any action after that? And the answer is usually no. And same like when we see um when trends that we've done that haven't really been well thought out, it's just like, let's just do a trend for the sake of a trend. We don't see like a spike in trials. We don't see a spike in website clicks. Like, yeah, we got a lot of likes and views, but like, it didn't really do anything. So that's why I only jump on a trend if it's like you have something that you can think of on the spot. It's quick, it's easy, it resonates, whatever. But like, don't make your whole strategy trends because that's not going to get you very far.
That's great advice. Honestly, I feel like that's the same thing that we see. A lot of people want to just figure out, oh, what's going to get you the absolute most views or the most traffic or whatever, and not chasing that all the time. It's super smart. So, what kind of content is converting people then? Because if that type is, maybe you get a lot of likes, but nobody's actually converting. Like, what types of content do you see that actually convert for you guys, and then for other brands that you work with?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen like carousel posts on Instagram are doing really well right now with trending music, and having carousel posts that are value driven. So if you are providing value, you're giving tips, you're giving educational content to your desired audience, that stuff does really well. Same with if you're filming a reel, and again, it's like that problem solution framework where you're saying, hey, if you have this problem, this is for you. Obviously not necessarily those words, but making a video that really highlights the problem in the beginning and then poses your company as the solution. I think that's another piece of content that does really well. I am a big believer that founder led companies do really well, because people resonate with like the founder and the mission, and like they want to invest in a person rather than just like this big corporation. People have that like emotional appeal if they know who the founder is. So all of that content as well, but I think you just have to experiment a lot. There's not like, if you do this type of video, you're gonna see an increase in views or anything like that, because I don't know. It depends on what your content is, but I always fall back on being value driven and solving a problem. Like, those two things is always what I like go back to.
And I like that you brought up the founder-led stuff. That trend seems to be almost not doable, if that makes sense. Like, it's almost not possible to build a brand in 2025 without having a founder that's the face of the brand. From your online presence, you've done a good job of it from my perspective. What has that looked like for you? What's that journey been like for you of being the founder and building a founder-led brand at Rella?
Well, I think it again, like, it's if people know that we're real people behind the scenes, where they see how we work, they see that we're like really committed to growing this company, they see that we really care about our customers. They're more likely to have patience with you if things go wrong. They're more likely to recommend you to people because it's like recommending a friend instead of recommending a company. You're like, oh, I know this girl that started this company. So even if they don't know me, even if they just follow me, like, we all have these, we think the people we follow are our friends. So, you're like sharing it with people. And so I think that people want individuals to win more than they want just like a random company to win. And so I do think founder led content's really important, and also positioning yourself, at least depending on what business you're in. If you're B2B, I think this is more important, but positioning yourself as like a leader in the space. So like, oh, I know this girl that she talks a lot about social media and growth, and she also has a company that helps social media teams. Like, it just further cements that like you know what you're doing because you are a leader in this space and you're building for people in this space. So like, you must have figured it out. It just like makes people think that. So I would say founder led content's really, really important. And it's an easier way to get in front of people, because also, again, going back to the beginning when I'm like, you can't make it salesy, founder led content usually isn't salesy, because it's like, I'm trying, I'm being vulnerable, I'm putting myself on the internet, I'm sharing my emotions, I'm sharing the ups and downs of being a founder, all of this stuff. It's the opposite of salesy. You're not like, hey, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy this product. It's like kind of you're being very vulnerable on the internet, and people see that, and their attention goes to it, and then they remember you, and then they support you down the line. So yeah, I think founder led content is super important.
And in terms of translating that into like your customers, because I guess the question I could see our audience asking is like, well, what's the point of getting people following me, talking about my business if none of them are my like actual customers? Is there anything that you think about there or that you advise people on of like, here's how to do both, where it's both like your story, but it's also, targeted towards your ideal customers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that again, like if the algorithms are pretty good now, so like if you're talking about, hey, I'm building a product in this space, here's a day in my life. And the vlog might not have anything to do with like that industry, but just because you've described that that's what you're building for and that's the problem you're solving, like the content most likely will get pushed out to the people that are interested in that in that problem, or interested in the solution to that problem. So I trust the algorithms a lot, that I'm like, if I put keywords in it, like it will get sent to the right people. Sometimes it ends up on like the wrong side of TikTok or the wrong side of Instagram, but like for the most part, it does get pushed out to the right people as long as you're strategic with like the keywords you're using. So you don't need to make your 100% of your content about that. But if you're talking about it, like it will get pushed to that audience, is my thought process. And I mean, it's worked for me so far.
It's really fascinating. And by keywords, do you mean just what you're talking about in the video or like in the caption, that kind of thing?
All of them, but especially like if you're, let's say for a vlog, you're saying this is the day in the life of a founder. Instead of just saying this is the day in the life of a founder, you can say, I'm the founder of a tech company solving this, this, and this. Like say what it actually is. Or in the construction space, in the marketing space, in fintech, whatever, like say the industry, because then it instantly like the second people hear it that are interested in that industry or are also in it, they're gonna keep paying attention. Like, who is this? Like, do I know who this is? Like, what is she building? So I do think that it's you can be strategic with it in that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's great advice. Like, I think that's one of the big hurdles that I see people getting really stuck on is like feeling like, they come from the world of keyword driven SEO content where it's like, this keyword is our ideal customer. They always search for this. So then we write a blog and then that gets us X amount of traffic and X amount of traffic turns into customers. But what you're saying is if you go lifestyle forward, for lack of a better term, is there a better term for that? Because that's like the old school term is like lifestyle. But I feel like what you're describing is not exactly lifestyle. How do you classify this approach?
I do think you should have a little bit more of a niche. So like instead of just saying like, oh, I'm lifestyle, because when I think of lifestyle, I think of fashion and beauty and makeup and then also like fitness, and it's just like anything to do with your life. Unless you're building like a lifestyle brand, then I do think you should niche down slightly. So whether it is like entrepreneurship and business content or social media content or, like whatever other content, like you should be providing value with whatever content you're posting, even if it's founder led. Like on your stories and everything like that, sure, share like this is what I'm wearing today or like this is what I ate, whatever. But like in your actual content, you should be sharing some value at least once in the video, or else why would people follow you? So you should share like, okay, I'm the business owner of a fintech company and like these are some of the challenges we're facing right now. And like you're still sharing your life, but like you're providing value in that way. So it is still again falls into that category of like value driven or attention span, and so it falls into like the value driven content.
Right. And it's just a different lens through which you're sharing it, is what I'm hearing. Like,
Exactly, yeah,
it's,
experiment with the different formats. So vlogs
yeah,
can be one format, but like there should be other formats you're experimenting with.
that's really cool. What was your founding story with Rella in terms of, I think 2022 you launched it? Like, what was the background there?
Yeah, so I was a content creator for since 2011. So I've been doing content for a very long time. And then I quit my job, was doing social media full time, and then I started an agency. So I started a social media agency where I helped creators grow on social, and I also help brands run their social media accounts. With that, I was hated all the tools I was using. So I was using like so many different tools. I felt the problem that we're trying to solve, and I wanted to build a solution for it. So I thought that there needed to be something more streamlined. There needed to be something easier. We should only be using like one, hub, and everything can go from there for social media. And I saw that like every business needed social media. This wasn't just an influencer thing or anything like that. So we launched in 2022, but we ended up pivoting. So we started for individual creators. That was like our first app, was for like content creators, influencers, and that was really hard to grow. And so we actually completely scrapped the product and relaunched last year in August of 2024. And since then, that's now targeting social media teams, businesses, and that's been really, really great. We've been growing a lot with that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And did you raise money, or is it bootstrapped, or?
Yeah, we ended up raising $1 million from traditional VCs.
Very cool. Very cool. That's awesome. Well, congrats on that. That's a great pivot. And it's funny how many founders come out of agency work because you see all the problems and you're
You see
just like,
problems like from the agency perspective, but also like you see problems your clients are making too, and you're like, this needs to
yeah,
be
you're
better.
like, this is very inefficient. This doesn't make any sense. Yeah, our
Exactly.
story is basically the same. We were doing websites and everyone just wanted leads. And we're like, quizzes convert better than these entire websites. And you can make one for $40 instead of $4,000. So why don't we just do a quiz platform? So similar concept there where it's like agency into a problem.
Mhm.
Um, is there anything that we missed? I felt like that was a very comprehensive overview, and anybody listening will learn a lot from it because those were the exact set of problems that our customers actually do face, like all the things that we talked through. Anything, as you're reflecting on what we just chatted about with social strategy that you feel like we missed or that would be really important, if you are a business owner or you're running social for a company, to know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll leave you with also saying that, social media is such an experiment. Like what works for one person doesn't work for the other. So that's why I always try to say value driven and entertainment driven, or like keeping your attention span, because that's the science part of it. Like that is the algorithm. Like the algorithm is a science, So like what is actually going to help with the algorithm? Keywords, attention span, and providing value. So that's stuff that you should focus on. But like if skits work for Rella, maybe they don't work for you. Or, if carousel posts work for some people and don't work for others, so it just, I always try to caveat it with saying that it shouldn't be about the type of content. It should be more of like the purpose of the content, I guess, that, or the style, like, yeah, the purpose of the content, that matters more to the algorithm.
Yeah, that's a great thing to end on. Well, thanks so much. Where can people go to check out Rilla, follow your story and all that?
Yeah, they can find Rella at getrella.com. And I'm happy to give your audience 10% off if they want 10% off any
Awesome.
plans. So if they use the
Great.
code interact, they can get 10%. But yeah, getrella.com, or you can find me at Natalie Barbu.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Natalie. This was super helpful. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on.